Welcome. Today I'm excited because I am getting ready to film a whole bunch of videos for you about homeschool recommendations. This is going to be early elementary recommendations. And I debated on just doing some elementary, but I thought, oh, the span between a kindergartner and a 5th or 6th grader is just so huge, and there is much more of a variety of curriculum that I could recommend. So I'm going to start with early elementary. Welcome to my channel, Learning with Boys. My name is Rachel. Yes, I am a homeschool mom. I have 4 boys, and I have actually graduated 2, and I have a middle schooler and a high schooler this school year. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about our past journey and share some recommendations of what I have used and maybe a couple of things that I haven't, but I would definitely look into because it's new to me. Like, I didn't even know it existed then. I do want to recommend a couple books that I feel like really impacted my thoughts on homeschooling, especially in the early years. The first one is the Charlotte Mason Companion. I do want to mention that I really do appreciate this book. We are not full-blown Charlotte Mason homeschoolers. I really feel like we are eclectic, but this really helped me in when my boys were younger, and just to start off gentle. I didn't need it to be rigorous, and I'm glad I read this because that helped my boys have a desire to learn and not a forceful feel of it. The other book I want to recommend, and I've talked about it in past videos, is the 103 Curriculum Picks from Kathy Duffy. Now, I am not saying you even have to read the part about her curriculum picks, but it would help if you read the part about the different learners. That really impacted me, helped me understand how each of my children were different, and gave me a little bit more discernment when I was picking and choosing curriculum. I could tell, like, no, this is not going to work for this particular child, or yes, this is what I've been looking for. So I really suggest that book, and I'm pretty sure you may be able to get both of these at the library. I wanted to give you that little note there. All right, let's get started in some of my recommendations. Since we're doing early elementary, we've got to talk about the learning to read and write and spell and all those things. So I'm going to start right there, and then I'm going to get into math. Different types of spelling. Definitely going to give you the 3 R's, and then some box curriculums that I have used and I would highly recommend. So let's just get started. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is what I use to introduce my kids to learn even the letter sounds. I guess you would call it phonics. It was actually spell to write and read, and that's what it is. You learn to spell, to write, to read. And they actually use phonograms. So phonograms are just simple cards that you introduce to sounds. You do not introduce names of letters. There's not really a jingle that goes with it. You just are teaching the sounds. So this would be a, o, and that is how you would introduce it, not separately. You give them all the sounds at one time. Once they've learned all the single phonograms, you would start introducing multi-letter phonograms. This would be E, double E, 3-letter J, ed, d, t. Yes, you would teach them all the sounds at one time. So now this takes a period of time. You definitely want to get them learning the single phonograms and beginning to write them. And that's once they learn how to write them, and you can start sounding out the words, and that is why it's spelled to write and read. And they start writing sentences with the words they have already learned to spell. So that is sort of how the program begins and starts and builds on. Now, I do want to give you an alternative, one that I have not personally used, but a friend of mine uses, and she said they use the same phonogram cards, which that is the part I really like about it, is that's how I'm teaching them. And it's Logic of English. This looks like it would definitely be an easier step. It gives directions for the teachers. There's videos that you can watch to learn how to implement the program. So this might be something you want to look into. But I do know for SWR, there is a lot of the same things out there. There's a lot of videos that explain how to do it. This program really helped in me teaching my child that was struggling to read. That's how I came about it. But all of my boys have used it. So I just want to share that with you. Now, when we're talking about writing, we want to think about writing curriculum in those early ages. This program itself has like a notebook that you purchase, and once they start to learn the sounds, they will begin to write them, and you teach them that. But if you want a specific workbook, one that I used and really liked was Handwriting Without Tears. I did use that here and there. I didn't consistently use it over several years, but more of a review of what we were already learning. I do want to suggest that I really think most writing programs are going to be very similar to a point, whether there are some people who do want to learn cursive first, and at both this SWR and Logic of English, from what I can tell, have those options. Okay, for spelling, if you want to step in a little bit further, because I feel like this particular program would also get their writing down, because once they start to learn to write, and let me tell you this right up front, when I am using this program, it's sometimes halfway through kindergarten before they are really writing the sounds down and making spelling words and beginning to read. So they might just be starting to write the sounds. It's not that they haven't recognized them or can't even really read them yet. But writing them, by the end of kindergarten, they are beginning to read, and by first and second, they're doing fine. So that is sort of also how that program works. Now, another one that I feel like would be beneficial, because I feel like it would have like writing or copy work in it, is the Spelling You See. Now, I have used this program, different children, different times. I never used it consistently. What I like about the program is you're learning, it's almost like you're learning to spell full sentences instead of just these lists of words. And they have them, I think it starts as early as kindergarten. And they talk about blocks. It is actually very similar to the phonograms that we have learned. That's why I was able to implement it in different periods of time for different boys, because it was familiar to them of how it worked. Another program that was very similar to this is actually a boxed curriculum, and I'm going to mention that here before I get into math and some other like reading and things like that, is My Father's World. My Father's World, I used the first grade program for my last two boys, and I used it for my third one. Just wanted to try it, but I loved it so much that when my fourth little guy came along, I wanted to use it again. So it really took a lot of what we were already learning in SWR and made it more kid-friendly. There was some things that were very similar. So I've still reviewed like our phonogram cards. We still did spelling from them sometimes, but we also had the worksheets from My Father's World. They had the Bible book they use in that grade. Now, I didn't use it to the full extent, but they both really enjoyed that program. And I do want to mention that for elementary children, they are going to be all different levels. And you may be wondering why something worked for one and it's not working for the other. And it may just be time. They need more time to comprehend. They may need more time to work on that math problem. They may need more review of those sounds and letters, and a little bit more review on writing those letters. And I've noticed each of mine was different, but at some point it does click. It's just the patience of review, review, review. So let's talk about math, and then I'll jump over back to reading. So I do want to mention Math You See. Math You See has worked all the way through with my boys. It is a mastery program. So you will be learning and spending a year like the primer, which is, they say kindergarten. Some people start it in K4, is learning your numbers, learning your place value, and then it jumps into addition. And it will go all the way up to long addition, then subtraction, and then multiplication and division, and so on. So you're really just mastering that, and you can go at your own speed. You don't have to be like, I mean, if they got week 4 and they understand it, do a paper, do the test, and move on. I've had all my boys have ended up at different levels in different years. So that's the great thing about it. All right, so that is math. For reading. Now, this is where I can't specifically recommend a curriculum, and I will tell you why. I have done a video of how we did reading outside the box. We did not use a particular curriculum. Now, I have probably pulled a book or two from a curriculum here or there just to see where they are at, or just because, especially for my last two. And what I do recommend, like obviously I did it with my third one and I liked it, so I did it again. And that was with My Father's World. We did first grade, and that was learning to read. We used the Bible book. The next year, I actually pulled the emerging readers from a curriculum called Heart of Dakota. I did not use, it is a box curriculum. It has history and science, and for the younger years, it has the phonics, gives you different choices for math and language arts and things like that. But I just wanted it for the readers. So I think I probably purchased the guide used. I had a lot of the readers already, so I just started collecting more of them. I probably ordered a few that were hard to find. And that is what we used for my last two boys. Now, from what I understand, they have an emerging reader too. I am not sure if it's like you can move on to the next level, or if it's just two options. So, but I will link that site below if you wanted to look at their books. And that is what we used. We used like the book selection that they had for, I guess that would be like a first, second grade reader into third. And really by the time they were in third, they were just reading what they wanted to read. And of course it was books that I would have on my shelf and suggestions that I would be handing them. So that is what we were using for reading. Now, like I said, I did pull books here and there from different curriculum. I think I found a book from Rod and Staff that was used. It was just one book that I think I used for my last one. It was more of Bible, reading the Bible stories, and he probably used that like in third grade. So, and that was just part of his reading. And then he would have other books he was reading also. But it was never like a boxed curriculum for reading that I purchased. So, what about other subjects like history and science? I do have a book that I know I've mentioned in my videos before, but it's for science, and it's Considering God's Creation. This was just a fun book that I used for my boys in those early elementary years, and it really just gave them a good introduction to, I don't want to just say science, but to our Creator who created all these things. And you can study about all different subjects. It starts off with creation, where you are in all of that, and how everything else is huge, but He loves you and cares for you. So I really love how it gently introduces all of that to the children. And then it talks about our universe, the earth, the weather, plant kingdom, rocks, animals, and it even talks about man made in God's image. They do have notebooking pages. I feel like a lot of I don't have a lot left, but I remember doing a whole weather study. But what you would do is obviously you would be cutting things out and pasting and doing some writing. So you would want to know how to write a little bit, and you could help them with that too. Now, I remember studying the planets through this, and I will tell you, I really do highly recommend that program. But we did get little books about the planets from the library, or about rocks. Just have to use a little bit of discerning. I got them real young, so they could look through them as I was reading or talking about it to them. And then we would do the notebook pages. And you could even do the extent of, we bought the balls and made a huge solar system when my boys were little, like first and third grade. So it really was a good program. You can take it as far as you want, or you can just do the very basic notebook. For box curriculum, I would suggest My Father's World. We actually used some of the kindergarten one. I think I bought it used, so it wasn't all there, but I used it for my youngest. And I also used Heart of Dakota curriculum, which is a curriculum I mentioned that we got the readers from, and we actually use now, and I'm going to be mentioning that in future videos. But they have a box curriculum starting at K4, and I purchased it that year, and it really was a good year for my youngest. He has a big age gap. It was only took about an hour. It is a Christian worldview curriculum. Came with all the little books for him, some hands-on things. The same with My Father's World. I didn't use K4, I used the kindergarten, but they are similar. But I do love the layout of the teacher's student guide for Heart of Dakota for all the grades. Those are my recommendations, mainly because they are what I used and what I enjoyed. There is a lot of other good curriculum out there. I would love to hear your recommendations. I want to know what you're using for early elementary. It would give us all some more ideas to share. So, all right, if you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be sharing upper elementary, middle school, high school in the near future here. So be looking for those videos. And if this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. All right, I do appreciate you all watching, and we will talk to you again soon.